We've got a lot to tackle this Tuesday morning and all week. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Good morning. Go to thecentersquare.com. Get the latest updates in your inbox simply by clicking on newsletter. Fill out that info, and it's free. You'll be able to get the latest, including what we're going to be talking about today with President Donald Trump saying, hey, Pritzker should beg for help with public safety, and protest outside of the ICE facility leading to 15 arrests in Broadview, and the Broadview mayor saying they're going to have to clamp down on where protesters can be. All of that going on while you've got the former Speaker of the Illinois House going into prison, just as you've got the Illinois General Assembly coming back to Springfield for fall veto session. Where will we see any ethics reforms on the table? It doesn't really look like it. So we'll be tackling all of those things here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Want to remind you again, get the newsletter, but also you can wake up with us here each and every weekday morning. Join the live chats. Pretty lively group of people hopping in there right at 8. So appreciate you guys. It's good to see. But also, don't forget, you got a whole host of other things at thecentersquare.com you can access, including headlines out of Washington, D.C. and beyond, as President Donald Trump had a pretty significant day yesterday, signing a Middle East peace deal, getting hostages back from Hamas, and really seeming to have the hand up to Israel to, stay put. So we'll see what happens there and how that progresses. But obviously here with Illinois in Focus, we focus on Illinois. So let's get right to it with President Donald Trump sending a message to Governor J.B. Pritzker late yesterday while he was on Air Force One heading back to Washington, D.C. He says Pritzker needs to beg for help when it comes to public safety. Stay tuned.
Mr. Trump, tear down this fence now.
I'll be speaking to Governor J.B. Pritzker tomorrow. Do you have any messages or questions for him?
Well, I think he should beg for help because he's running a bad operation.
It's President Donald Trump and Illinois House Speaker President Donald Trump and current Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch yesterday talking about public safety and what's going on in Broadview in the city of Chicago with immigration enforcement. Good morning. I'm Greg Bishop. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with you each and every weekday morning. A lot going on, including the ongoing back and forth between the Trump administration and the state of Illinois concerning the issue of immigration enforcement and the use of the National Guard to bring about more public safety. And in particular, all eyes have been on Broadview, Illinois, which is the only immigration and customs enforcement processing facility in the state. ICE doesn't have any detention space, from my understanding, so they have to, eventually move them either to Indiana to detain and get ready for deportation, or somewhere else around the country. But Broadview, small community, 8,000 people. They've seen protests, and the protests got to a point several weeks ago where they put up a fence around the Broadview ICE facility, and that was to keep protesters from getting too close to the facility. Broadview sued, saying that the fence wasn't within regulation, and they have a judge order calling the fence to be taken down. I don't think that fence has been taken down. But regardless, you still had 15 arrests over the weekend. After the prior weekend, there were multiple arrests and clashes with protesters getting out of hand and clashing with law enforcement. But regardless of that, and regardless of the Broadview mayor already putting in an executive order limiting protest times, the Broadview mayor put in another executive order yesterday limiting where protesters can be, saying they've caused chaos. Even though the Broadview mayor supports the protesters' perspective. So setting all that up here, you've got a conversation that is back and forth between Democrats and Republicans about public safety, starting with Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch. He is in Broadview. It's his district, he said, and he made a... He made a comparison to the Berlin Wall and former President Ronald Reagan telling Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down the wall. And he used that to compare it to the fence in Broadview, protecting the Immigration Customs Enforcement facility in that village.
And an American president actually ordered an iron fence to be erected in American City. Just as the Berlin Wall did in 1961, this fence stands as a symbol of division. This fence is a symbol of dividing families. This fence is a symbol of dividing communities. This fence is a symbol of dividing Americans. And this fence is a symbol of denying American constitutional rights. This fence is also a distraction. Let's be clear. This fence is a distraction and a reinforcement of the havoc Trump has wreaked on our nation. What is he distracting us from? Some real basic verifiable facts. Black women have lost jobs at a higher rate than any demographic. Our community, this very community, is being stripped of DEI programming that supports our youth, that protects our youth, that's driving down violence. And folks are returning their animals. They're returning their animals to shelters because they can't afford to care for them.
Some people hearing that yesterday in the comments of the video said it's not Trump that's caused people to have economic hardship in Illinois. It's the Democrat policies of more taxation, highest property taxes in the country, highest gas taxes in the region, second highest in the country. The workers' comp costs for businesses, the stagnant population, a whole host of other things. Those weren't Trump's fault. Some are pointing that it's the Democrats' policies over several years that have led to this. But back to Speaker Welch.
We must pull back all of these fences and all of these barriers to the American dream. Mr. Trump, tear down this fence now. Tear it down. Tear down this symbol of division. Tear down this symbol of destruction. Tear it down and tear it down now.
So again, Speaker Welch there. You had other state legislators, and we'll hear from the Broadview mayor here in a moment. But I connected with Republican State Representative John Cabello yesterday, and he reacted to Welch's comments about the wall.
Well, I don't think the President of the United States is going to listen to the Speaker of the House. The wall or the fence is probably going to stay just right where it is. There may be a judge's order saying that to take it down, but I think that would be a state judge, and I don't believe that the federal government's going to listen to a state judge either. So, I mean, maybe people just need to remember history. So Barack Obama, Bill Clinton have deported more illegal aliens than Donald Trump. So why is it such an issue now that we're getting the worst of the worst to go back to the countries that they came from? We obviously want immigrants. We want them here legally, though. There's channels and ways of doing that. Um, it makes no sense to me that we're having these types of protests. If you want to protest, please do, but make sure that it's peaceful. What we're seeing in Broadview is not peaceful. What we're seeing in Broadview, I sure hope they arrest a lot more people because you break the law, that's what should be happening. And this is actually, in my opinion, what they did today was just an overall distraction from watching and seeing Michael J. Madigan reporting to prison. Maybe we should on the other side go and have some peaceful welcoming to Mr. Madigan in prison today. Maybe we could get some coverage like the Speaker of the House did.
We'll talk about former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan going to prison yesterday in the next segment. But interesting that Cabello interjected that idea when responding to the issue of, a welcoming city and sanctuary and such, and the protests Democrats have against Republicans, and the Trump administration in particular. But you've got another storyline about the corruption convictions of Speaker Madigan. Friday, Governor J.B. Pritzker was encouraging protests outside of the ICE facility.
I only have concern if peaceful protesters are somehow disrupted by people who are not being peaceful, or by ICE. And so that's why we've got Illinois State Police, we've got local police, we've got county sheriffs out there. We're trying to protect the protesters, the peaceful protesters. Anybody who isn't peaceful is going to be arrested. But I encourage people to peacefully protest. I have been a peaceful protester many times in my life. I think this is a good thing. It's very American to do it. And so I encourage it. I think it's a good thing. And I think that the results of it will be, hopefully, that a lot of elected officials especially will hear them and act upon their voices.
Protests have been chaotic. I don't know if that's the metric of success, but even the Broadview mayor, Katrina Thompson, says that protesters, she agrees with their opposition to immigration enforcement and how the Trump administration's handling it. But she said that protesters are getting out of hand and causing chaos on the streets of Broadview, and that's problematic for her community.
There were 15 arrests, and 10 of those arrested were around the ages of my own daughter. And as both a mother and a mayor, I remain deeply upset by what occurred. Protecting peace and public safety. Let me be clear. Broadview did not choose to have the ICE facility in our community, but it's here, and so are our residents. There have been far too many protesters raising their fists instead of their voices, creating chaos at the expense of those who live here. Our residents do not have the privilege to retreat to quiet neighborhoods once the cameras are gone. They live here, they work here, and they deserve peace. Therefore, in consultation with the Illinois State Police, Cook County Sheriff, I have issued a new executive order. Effective immediately, the protests will only be permitted at designated safety zones located at the ICE facility on B Street. The previous safety zone on 25th Avenue between Lexington and Fillmore will no longer be used for demonstrations. This decision was made to protect lives. It's been only by God's grace that no one has been seriously injured or killed as protesters dart into traffic on that busy 4-lane street. The new measure protects both the safety of protesters and the serenity of Broadview residents.
So again, a new executive order in Broadview limiting where protesters can go. And John Cabello, who is in law enforcement himself, a Republican state representative from Chesney Park, says that it's interesting that you've got Thompson making these comments.
Well, is this the same mayor that at first said she'd welcome the protesters and now she doesn't? I mean, she's a disaster. She just needs to stick to dealing with her city. She obviously can't handle what's going on there. The state can't handle what's going on there. Let the feds do what they need to do. They will do it the way they need to. And, it's kind of like this. In Springfield, the Democrats don't ever ask us Republicans what's going on. It's going to be that way with the federal government. They're not going to ask what the state wants in any way, shape, or form. Governor Pritzker should have been big enough to call the president when he was telling him that this was going to happen. But JB just did not want to do it. And here we are. Cooler heads should have prevailed a long time ago. Now it's just a war of words that make no sense to at least 80% of the people. This is an 80-20 issue, and 80% of the people are against what the Broadview mayor, what the Speaker of the House, and what the governor are saying.
Also chatted with Republican State Representative Patrick Windhorst yesterday by phone, and he's the House floor leader for Republicans, and asked him about Welch's demonstration outside of Broadview.
I think when we look at what occurred or what was said in the press conference today, and the mayor of Broadview saying that she was going to even further limit the free speech zone that had been established, shows that the protests have exceeded what's protected by the First Amendment and have turned into unruly protests that are not protected by law. The fact that they're in the streets interfering with law enforcement, so much that there have been arrests made by or enforcement done by state law enforcement agencies, shows that the protests have gone beyond what is lawfully permitted. And if the other side, the Democratic side, is going to say we need to respect the law, the rule of law, that applies to all of the law, not just the law part of the law they like or they want to see enforced. It applies to all the law, and we need to make sure that we do respect the rule of law in its totality.
So again, Patrick Windhorst talking about the rule of law and how it's obvious the protesters have gone beyond what's allowed in the First Amendment if the Broadview Village has to implement free speech zones. President Donald Trump speaking late yesterday. I was making dinner, and it's like 8 o'clock or something. Just need a little snack before bed, and I flip over to YouTube and see the president's talking on Air Force One, and right as I flip it on live, he's talking about the Insurrection Act. He's talking about the ongoing court battle between the state of Illinois and the Trump administration concerning the use of the National Guard, and even had a message for Governor J.B. Pritzker. But he said that he wants governors across the United States to be strong.
I want them to be stronger and tougher and not allow us to have record-breaking crime in Chicago and different places. I want them to admit they have crime. So there were 4,000 shootings in Chicago. Murders over a fairly short period of time.
And the president went on to say it was like a year and a half or something. It's if you take like 6 or 7 years and smash them together, you'll get 4,000. Because there were years where Chicago had 720 plus homicides, and several years in a row they had that. So you could see how that can quickly add up. But he was asked about the courts are stifling his efforts to use the Guard for public safety in places like Portland and in Illinois, where federal district judge Thursday blocked the Trump administration from moving forward with the plans to deploy 500 National Guardsmen to Illinois.
I could use it. If I wanted to, I could use it. Look, that's a very simple answer. I'm allowed to use the Insurrection Act. In fact, that was on Stephanopoulos today, his Sloppodopoulos show. They asked Sloppy Chris Christie about the Insurrection Act. He said, well, if you're talking about the Insurrection Act, he's got the absolute right to use that. And he said a couple of things over there. He said 50% of the presidents that served in office have used the Insurrection Act. And the Insurrection Act, according to all of them, said it can't even be challenged. I don't have to go there yet because I'm winning on appeal. You're right. We're losing with radical left judges, generally, radical left judges, and we're winning on appeal.
So he says they're winning on appeal, but on an emergency motion that the Trump administration filed to the 7th Circuit's U.S. Court of Appeals, that was denied. So they still got to deal with the case on the merits. But Trump was also asked about Pritzker. What message do you have for the Illinois governor?
I could use it. If I wanted to, I could use it. Look, that's a very simple.
I'll be speaking to Governor J.B. Pritzker tomorrow. Do you have any messages or questions for him?
Well, I think he should beg for help because he's running a bad operation. He's letting people be killed in his city because he doesn't want in Chicago. And I love Chicago. Chicago can be a great city again, and very quickly. I would have Chicago cleaned out, the criminals removed, we would remove them. In D.C. we took out 1,700 career criminals, hard-line criminals. That's why it's so good right now. D.C. setting records the other way. It's never been so safe. And the restaurants have never done better business. They're opening up new restaurants. They were closing restaurants, now they're opening new restaurants. I can do the same thing on a larger scale in Chicago. And Pritzker should ask me to do it. But when you mention insurrection, I mean, you were the one that mentioned, one of you mentioned insurrection. I could do that. And many presidents have.
Do you have an update on
50%, Katie, 50% of the presidents have used the insurrection because they don't want to go through this stuff where somebody said there's no crime and 4,000 people got shot. You know, right?
Maybe you'll have to use
You
it.
don't have to convince because she tends to be on the conservative side.
Do you have an update?
So again, that's President Donald Trump late yesterday talking about a variety of things, but having that message to Governor J.B. Pritzker that he should beg for Trump's help with public safety. We'll be watching the governor's reaction to that as he's got an event later on today, and we'll be tuned in, but also we'll be on the State House grounds to talk to legislators about all of this and more. It is Illinois in Focus Daily with you each and every weekday morning here for the Center Square. Former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan going to prison. Seeing some video here of him walking in for day two of his sentencing hearing. Reporter Jim Talamonte was up there all throughout that case of the former Illinois House Speaker being found guilty of corruption charges, and yesterday he reported to prison. So Madigan went from public official A to prisoner number 90368-509. Oh, it's fascinating. And what's going to happen with ethics reforms? Is that going to come about in the fall veto session, which also begins today? So Madigan goes to prison yesterday. Fall veto session starts today. Are we going to see some substantive ethics reforms? Current House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch responding to the question of ethics reforms, but we've also got House floor leader for the Republicans, Patrick Windhorst, reacting, but also just an overview of what could happen with fall veto session this week. So again, background, Speaker Madigan was Speaker for all but 2 years from 1983 to 2021. He was in the legislature for 50 years entirely. He also led the Democratic Party of Illinois as the chairman, controlling that party purse. He controlled the Democrat House purse. He also controlled the 13th Ward purse in Chicago. So a lot of different funds that he was able to move around.
We did ethics reform in my first.
And you've got a nearly decade-long investigation of corruption by federal prosecutors of Madigan and several utility companies, most importantly the Commonwealth Edison angle here, because Madigan was accused of using his office for the personal gain of himself and his associates by having favorable legislation pass the General Assembly for ComEd in exchange for ComEd giving little to do nothing jobs for Madigan associates. So he was found guilty on 10 counts, but he was charged with like 22 or something. But either way, he's found guilty and was sentenced to 7.5 years. Madigan said that he wanted to appeal and try to stay out of prison pending appeal. That was denied. So he had to report to prison yesterday for that 7.5 year sentence going to Florida. Again, back when all this was revealed, he was not named in the official documents initially. He was just known as Public Official A. But now, Madigan is prisoner number 90368-509 in a federal institution. House Speaker Chris Welch, who was the speaker after Madigan was speaker in 2021, Welch took the mantle and got the majority support in the House. He was asked yesterday if enough's been done about ethics reforms.
We did ethics reform in my first year as Speaker. It was very substantive. I'm proud of that. We did it in a bipartisan way initially.
Well, not so fast for Republicans. They say that it wasn't really that good of an ethics bill initially, and it led to some pretty significant criticism from those who are supposed to be the ethics watchdogs at the State House. Here's Patrick Windhorst talking about that.
My conversations with the chair of the House Ethics and Elections Committee do not reveal any expected legislation on the ethics issue. What we have heard is that there may be something either during veto or in the spring on elections. We had an elections bill, of course, that didn't get passed at the end of the spring session, but there has been no movement on any ethics legislation, not even a subject matter hearing on any ethics legislation, which of course is tremendously disappointing. We have the longest serving state house speaker in the country's history going to prison today. The issues with him and his case have been going on for years, providing us ample time to address a lot of the issues that we've seen brought up. The House Speaker, Speaker Welch, today said that he felt like in 2021 there was major ethics reforms that were passed and that was sufficient. I think when you look back at what was passed in 2021, what we see is the impact of that legislation was the resignation of the sitting legislative inspector general at that time in protest to what she believed was creating an office that is a paper tiger. So I think we need to have hearings on ethics reform packages. Let's hear ideas from legislators, public interest groups, other stakeholders, hear legislation that may be models that we've seen throughout the country that have worked to make government more ethical. And I would think that we as legislators would want to move forward with building trust within our districts, within the constituents that we represent within the entire state. And one of the ways we can build that trust is by saying we're going to pass strong ethics reforms to bring our state into line with other states.
Now, Windhorst talking about that in the context of Madigan going to prison, but also the start of fall veto session, which is today. They've got 6 days scheduled, 3 this week, 3 the last week of October, so they're off next week. But what are they going to do? They've got a stack of things that could happen. They've got one veto, could possibly be addressed, but Windhorst laying out some other things he anticipates could come up for fall veto session, which may mean, as some have said, when the State House is in session, hold on to your pocketbooks.
Well, we've heard rumblings all summer that there would be an energy bill that would come forward. We've had some subject matter hearings that have occurred on SB 25, which has a House amendment that we may see come forward that unfortunately takes the state continuing down this road of higher rates, less reliance on reliable and affordable energy sources, fossil fuel energies in particular. And we're going to move away from even having, if this bill passes, even having the legislature involved much in energy policy going forward. It's going to be transferred to the Commerce Commission. So that's one large piece that we're keeping an eye on if that's going to move or not. The issues around Chicago area transit have continued to be discussed through the summer. I have not heard that there is any agreement on those yet. The one major piece of information, as you're aware, is the fact that the fiscal cliff number has been reduced from 700 to 800 million down to about 200 million, which may delay the need for any action this fall into the spring session. And my hope is that we don't see any additional tax increases or fee increases from the state level on individuals around the state. The way this was being addressed by the Senate legislation was to put a delivery tax on all Illinoisans for items that are delivered to their home in order to pay for the Chicago area transit mainly. I didn't feel like that was the right approach, and thankfully that has not yet been called for a vote in the House. There may be something with the Bears Stadium or legislation around major projects, which may include the Bears Stadium. And then over the last several days, we've heard more on the immigration issues that may result in some additional expansion of the Trust Act.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that, get reaction from Windhorst, but also with John Cabello, Republican member of the State House. But the issue of energy legislation, they've held like 5 meetings and hearings about Senate Bill 25 and the House amendments that just puts more focus on incentivizing wind, solar, and battery storage without consideration of how much it's going to increase costs for the consumer, especially if there's another surcharge or something tacked onto energy bills to prop up wind, solar, and battery storage. Republican State Representative Brad Halbrook, during a recent committee hearing, said that, listen, we need justification for this. And we've got people that are seeing 15, 20, 30, 50% increases in their energy bills. And you said that all of these efforts several years ago was made to try to have energy be more reliable and available, but it doesn't seem to be working. And now we've got this new measure that he says he's worried is just going to continue to increase costs on consumers.
I think we heard this same scenario play out with CEJA, and there's been 2 or 3, maybe 4 adjustments to CEJA to try to make things happen. So we've seen this movie before. We've heard these lines before that this is going to make it better, but yet every time legislation's passed, everybody's energy bill goes up. And so that's why I'm a bit skeptical here about all of this stuff.
So Halbrook pushing back against that, but it's not just Republicans who are concerned about high energy bills and what this proposal could do, an energy omnibus, a bill that includes a whole bunch of things about energy policy. State Senator Willie Preston, a Democrat from Chicago, speaking recently with the Center Square's Jim Talamonte, saying that he's not on board with what they're proposing right now.
Look, as a working class person myself, I know that any other line item put on a tax bill, on a utility bill, a light bill, could just crush working class people in these high inflationary times. So I am a hard no as of right now on an energy omnibus until we can address the issue of raising rates on ratepayers and taxpayers and utility consumers.
So again, he's a hard no if this bill is going to increase costs on ratepayers, which that's the indication that we're getting from those who are supporting this measure, and the additional costs being a rationale to focus on decarbonization and getting these projects online faster. But other issues that could come up, you heard Windhorse talk about, the Bears Stadium deal. You could possibly see, the veto override. And possibly even more, like, for instance, boosting the state's migrant sanctuary policies under the Trust Act. Patrick Windhorst throwing that's a possibility when they come back for fall veto session starting today.
That's the 2 major things that I've heard. There's also the potential expansion of the Trust Act to beyond just immigration enforcement to include all federal law enforcement, which the division that's being created between state law enforcement and federal law enforcement as it relates to federal immigration issues is bringing on a lot of the problems I think we're seeing in Chicago and surrounding areas right now. The fact that our federal law enforcement officers have no ability to work with the state on these specific immigration issues leaves them in a difficult position in trying to enforce federal law. So to continue to expand that Trust Act beyond just where it currently exists, which it's already seen expansions from the original passage in 2017, I believe is the wrong approach. We need to be actually encouraging cooperation and working together with different law enforcement entities to make sure that the law is enforced in a orderly way, and that the federal officers, whether immigration or other law enforcement officers, have support from state law enforcement.
Could there be an effort during fall veto session to further beef up the Trust Act that prohibits state and local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration authorities, and something that the Trump administration has said has led to ICE flooding the zone on the streets instead of working with local law enforcement to get somebody who's here illegally from a county jail to go to Immigration Customs Enforcement custody. John Cabello, a state Republican representative, but also in law enforcement, he talked about the possibility of Democrats looking to enhance the state's migrant sanctuary policies.
There's nothing more they can do. Number one, I've got a bill that repeals the Trust Act, so I think that kind of lets you know where I'm at. But 2, the Trust Act really, if you read that, kind of only deals with civil things. If there's a federal warrant signed by a judge, the Trust Act doesn't apply. Law enforcement can continue to do what they need to do and they can continue to work with federal agencies. There's no way I can see that they can shore that up anymore. And if they do, they're just putting more people at risk, and bring it on. I mean, if that's what you want to put your constituents in, it's totally wrong, and you'll have to deal with the consequences of the elections.
Obviously, we'll be watching all of this with the Center Square on the ground at the State House for fall veto session starting today. They're going to tackle ethics. They're going to tackle energy. They're going to tackle migrant sanctuary policies, Bears Stadium. How are you going to be impacted as a taxpayer? Are we going to see the possibility of increased taxes to pay for the fiscal cliff? A lot to tackle, and I appreciate you guys being part of this. Don't forget, get the newsletter in your inbox each and every weekday morning. Go to thecentersquare.com, click on newsletter, and you'll be able to get that free in your inbox. Don't forget, also, you can wake up with us here for Illinois in Focus each and every weekday morning. I'm Greg Bishop for the Center Square, Illinois. All right, guys, it's going to be a busy week. I'm going to try to be juggling here a bit from going to the State House and still getting you daily programs. Going to try to possibly do some pre-recorded programs just because sometimes they start really early in the morning. So getting back into the swing of things of at the State House, reporting on what's going on so that you can get on with your day. All right, so be back here tomorrow around the same time with the Center Square, and we'll give you Illinois in Focus daily. I'm Greg Bishop, editor of Illinois at the Center Square. Shout out to the team who's going to be helping us cover things. Jim Talamonte, got the investigative reporting team, Jared Strong, and so many more. So be sure to help support us here with the Center Square. And if you can't watch the show in the mornings, you can get the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Just search Illinois in Focus Daily. Have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.